In this video, I'll be reviewing my pedal electric all-wheel drive S. Now, when I looked for this, I could not find a lot of information. As of December 2023, this is going for about $3,000 online, $3,100 this morning, and I've seen it as low as $2,900. On the lower end of that, you're getting a deal. It's an absolute buy if you're the right type of buyer. At $3,100, it's a little bittersweet. That's about the price I paid, and I have to say that although I don't regret this purchase, there are some things that could have been optimized. So just a quick spec overview I want to show you guys. These are the stock tires. They're hybrid treads. They do pretty decent. I had one flat immediately, but no type of tire is going to save you from a shaving blade, so it is what it is. I have had a flat on these, but I would say that if I wasn't unlucky, those are actually pretty decent tires. You're gonna get an Advent derailleur. It's a 9-speed. It does its job. Nothing to write home about, but it's been consistent. I've taken it off-road, and so far it's worked for me. Like any entry-level derailleur, you're not gonna want to shift it under load. That's standard at this price range. Keep in mind that this is a hub drive e-bike, and when you're rocking a hub drive, really you're gonna get spoiled and run the hardest gear most of the time. Now, online you're actually going to see a completely different chainring. Here I replaced it with a mountain bike chainring because I honestly pushed this thing a little too much and like taking it off-road. And when you're off-road, you really need that high clearance, and that chainring was bumping left and right. I only had a couple scrapes on sidewalks with the original chainring, and it does have a chainring guide, so that'll help you maintain it. But do keep in mind that it's a pretty large chainring. Now, these are replacement shocks. The stock shocks were absolute garbage. I do not recommend them. They did not do their job. They were actually way too stiff. The stock shocks are, I believe, motorcycle parts, and given that, I think it was just meant for a heavy machine. And even though this thing does weigh 90 pounds with the battery on, even with dual riders, you can see this is a very long saddle. I was having not enough sag and way too much rebound with the stock shocks, and we were just bumping all over the place. Yeah, I recommend, if you do get this bike, change the shocks immediately. The battery is a 2000 watt capable battery, given that you are rocking dual hub motors, and that comes in at 25 amp hours. Now, the range on this it's bittersweet, because if you do learn, and you will learn, how to manage your battery, you'll be running with one motor most of the time. And I think that's a big issue because you have two of them. You want to use two of them, but really they're meant to get you up hills and get you up to speed, and that's it. You turn it off. If you do want to use them from a dead stop, you will have spin out unless you put all of your weight towards the front. There is some technique to this. This is not a beginner bike. And even then, once you're up to speed, you can maintain it with one motor. Really, that'll save your battery, because on dual motor you'll be getting probably 15 to 20 miles. You could get way more than that. The more you pedal, the easier you take it, not up hills. Of course, I have gotten way more than that, but just keep that in mind. Battery ranges are always going to be a pretty large range depending on your environment. Now, the brakes, they're entry-level dual piston brakes. They're pretty good. They're great on street. I would not recommend this for downhill. Under sustained performance, you will get these really hot. I've experienced actually a burn. Just checking them out. And usually if you're off-roading and you're using two motors, you're going to notice that a lot of debris that's underneath that motor just gets launched straight into this rotor. So even though they're good, decent brakes, if you're anywhere remotely dirty, you're going to get a lot of squeak out of this one. So keep that in mind. Both of them are identicals. They are 180 millimeter rotors. They're decent. They're great for the street. Definitely not the best off-road. This entire bike can be summarized in that one sentence. Not the best off-road, amazing on the street. The fork, amazing on the street, not the best off-road. It does have a adjustment over here, as you can see. That adjustment, I gotta say, gives you a pretty good range. Now, even though it does get really soft and plushy, by the time you get it really soft and plushy, you might be bottoming out a little too much. So something I would hope is actually possible, and I'm going to look into it, is getting bottom out spacers for the fork, because that'll avoid all of the clunkiness. And honestly, if pedal electric could do that stock, they have a winner. It's such an easy fix. If they could just design it to come default with those spacers, like this is a really good fork for that. You can see up front, I actually ended up changing the tire from that flat. I got a flat on the back, so I had to rotate the stock tire to the back. That's that one that used to come in front, and installed these knobby tires. And I gotta say, it's really helped because it's thinner with the handling, with the weight, and most importantly, with the spin out. Because that dual motor, it still spins out, but not as bad as it was with the stock. That knobby tread really helps out with the spinning out. Now, when it comes to the security features, if your battery is installed, you can set an alarm, and as soon as somebody kicks your bike, it will go off. Now, it is a little too sensitive for my liking, and it's bittersweet because you do need to leave the battery plugged in, meaning that it's not going to be a good overnight alarm if that's what you're looking for. But it is really great for when you're out and you just need a 5-minute stop, because in combination with that alarm, you can also go ahead and extend this motorcycle lock, and it'll prevent your wheel from being rotated. So this is honestly a really hard bike to steal if it's not the weight. It's the alarms, it's the lock, plus an extra lock that you always gotta, standard have. And you can also go ahead and put an air tag in the cavity of the controller. You're pretty much set. I have had no issue with this, and I'm pretty confident that if someone's gonna steal it, they're going to have a rough time doing so. And I'll do my best to recover it because it is air tagged, and good luck with that. It comes stock with a really sturdy, actually. You can lift it through this. Whoa, there you go. Really sturdy rack. And usually these racks, if they do come included, they're going to be super cheap, not really reliable, and they're not included most of the time. So I'm really happy that this comes, although it does affect the handling. So if you want something more sporty, you probably want to look somewhere else. And by sporty, I mean maneuverable, because it's a really fast bike, but it's not very maneuverable due to its weight. And part of it is this rack, which is, I believe, like under 10 pounds, but still like 10 pounds, about almost a tenth, more than a tenth of the total weight. You get turn signals, which are really nice. There's your turn signal left. There's your turn signal right. And while we're on the lights, there's your front light. I gotta say, it's a really decent front light. It's upgraded from the last generation, I hear. This is my first bike. I haven't tried the all-wheel drive 3. This is the all-wheel drive S. I have no complaints. Apparently, the battery was also upgraded by 5 milliamp hours. I can't imagine having that 20 amp hour battery, because the range on this is barely enough. I actually did have a dual battery setup. As you can see, it left a mark there. Unfortunately, and PSA, if you do go this route, I did not use Loctite, and I did not notice. I don't know how it happened. I did not notice that it fell off. So that was an expensive mistake. It was a hard-learned lesson. But PSA, use Loctite when you do install your battery. I actually will be hopefully uploading a tutorial of what to do and what not to do, because you also have to make sure that you have the right battery blender, given that between both motors you're actually going to be pulling up to 60 amps of power sustained. So you got to make sure you got the right battery blender, given that it's a safety issue. I saw somebody online who melted their wires because they did not use the right battery blender, and I mean, fortunately it only left that melting, but if it gets hot enough near the battery, you light a battery, and we all know how those go. Here's one final 360 shot for in-depth inspection. Now be sure to leave any questions. However small they are, I am small enough to probably answer them all. If you are one of the few people that should try this bike, then make sure you use the link in the description. It's a readily available referral link on Pedal site, so the video isn't directly sponsored by them. As a recap, if you need a two-seater city bike with a high weight capacity on any incline, with low to medium off-road use, this is for you. However, there are better deals to be had if you're just a single rider, or if you need a specifically off-road use vehicle. That being a Suron for something extreme because you're on private land, or a mountain bike for downhilling. Like, this will actually struggle downhill, which I learned the hard way, so it is what it is. Well, good luck shopping.